if time isn't as fixed as we think? In this journey through the mysterious folds of reality, we dive into astonishing tales of accidental time travel and unexplained temporal glitches. From a grieving boy turned pioneering physicist determined to rewrite his past, to a self-proclaimed traveler from the year 3036, and even secrets tangled within powerful families and covert organizations, each story challenges our very perception of time. Get ready to question the boundaries of past, present, and future as we uncover the hidden intersections of science, history, and the surreal. What if a personal tragedy could light the spark for defying physics itself? Meet Professor Ronald Mallett, a man whose childhood heartbreak transformed into a lifelong quest to bend time. At just 10 years old, Mallett's world was shattered by the sudden loss of his beloved father, Boyd. In the midst of overwhelming grief, he discovered solace in the pages of H.G. Wells' The Time Machine and the revolutionary ideas of Einstein. These readings planted a radical seed in his mind. What if time, much like space, could be traveled? With his heart set on rewriting the past, young Mallett vowed to journey back to 1955 to save his father. Fueling his dreams with determination, Mallett dove deep into the world of physics. Even as a child cobbling together a makeshift model from bicycle parts, spare TV components, and old radio bits, his ideas transcended mere fantasy. He was captivated by a single transformative line. Scientific people know very well that time is just a kind of space, which propelled him into a stellar academic career. Over the decades, he advanced from a curious, grief-stricken boy in the Bronx into one of the pioneering theoretical physicists of his generation. Now an emeritus professor at the University of Connecticut, Mallett's research centers on the audacious idea, twisting the fabric of space-time with a ring of rotating lasers. Imagine stirring a cup of coffee until the swirl creates a vortex. Mallett theorizes that a similar effect occurs near a rotating black hole, where space-time itself gets dragged along. By replicating such conditions with a continuously spinning beam of light, he believes a loop of time might be created. A portal, if you will, that allows travel back along the timeline. Although the practical hurdles remain enormous, his critics point out that such a machine would require astronomical amounts of energy, likening it to a galactic-scale feat. His theory has sparked serious discussion in academic circles. Institutions like MIT and specialized departments worldwide are now studying aspects of time reversal and related phenomena, signaling that time travel might be less outlandish than once thought. While Mallett's ultimate goal, to return to 1955 and rewrite personal history, remains beyond our reach, and by his own admission, might only ever allow travel back to the moment the time loop was created, his work has broader, inspiring implications. He envisions a future where the ability to manipulate time could be harnessed for incredible advances, predicting natural disasters with precision, inventing breakthrough treatments in medicine, or even curbing the impact of catastrophic events like pandemics. In this light, his research is less about personal revenge against fate and more about opening doors to potential innovations that could transform the well-being of humanity. His journey from a grieving child to a celebrated astrophysicist illustrates how heartache can fuel intellectual curiosity, inspiring us to question the rigid boundaries of our reality. In his eyes, his father's memory is not just a source of sorrow, but the spark that ignited a legacy of discovery. And in my opinion, that is the best legacy he could have left, and I can only imagine how proud his father would have been. Andrew Basiago is a controversial figure who claims that as a child, he was recruited into a secret US government project, often associated with the mysterious Project Pegasus that allegedly enabled him to traverse both space and time. According to his narrative, these experimental missions allowed him not only to visit different points in history, but also to glimpse potential futures, suggesting that the rigid boundaries between past, present, and future might be more flexible than mainstream science acknowledges. Andrew's accounts describe surreal journeys during which he purportedly witnessed historical events firsthand and interacted with realities that challenge our conventional understanding of time. While his stories have captured the imagination of time travel enthusiasts and sparked intriguing debates within alternative scientific circles, mainstream researchers remain skeptical, citing a lack of empirical evidence to substantiate these extraordinary claims. I know the claims sound outlandish, but this is also coming from a person who is apparently a practicing and educated attorney. It all really is interesting, and hey, I could see it being true, and also untrue, so I guess I'll just let you decide on this one. Could it be a hidden hand that has been subtly rewriting our timeline all along? Some researchers point to a peculiar spike in Mandela effect searches around 2005, speculating that one mysterious figure might be at the root of these temporal oddities. They draw connections between little-known details, like Donald Trump's uncle, once a respected MIT professor who played a role in World War II, and his family's acquisition of Nikola Tesla's private research, which was later funneled to John Trump for analysis after Tesla's demise. This web of intrigue deepens when you factor in figures such as Alfred Lee Loomis, a key collaborator in the Manhattan Project and pioneer of cyclotron technology, who reportedly worked closely with John Trump. Then there's the curious role of Prince Bernhard, a co-founder of both CERN and the Bilderberg Group, who reportedly orchestrated a covert mission to collect and repurpose German scientific research on the Heidelberg cyclotron after World War II, a move seen by some as part of a larger, hidden agenda against Nazi Germany. All of these connections hint at a clandestine effort where cutting-edge science, government cover-ups, and historical revisionism intermingle, leaving us to wonder if our understanding of time has been manipulated by forces determined to keep these secrets buried beneath layers of conspiracy and intrigue. Could a year in space turn your body into a real-life time machine, rewriting how you age? Consider the famous twin paradox from Einstein's playbook. One twin zooming through space at near light speed should age slower than the twin left on Earth, but real-life evidence from NASA's twin astronauts tells a twisty tale. Astronaut Scott Kelly, who spent nearly a year aboard the International Space Station, appears to have aged slightly faster than his identical Earthbound twin Mark, a striking example of how the extreme conditions of space can warp not only your surroundings but also your very biological clock. When Scott ventured into low Earth orbit, he wasn't hurtling through space at light speed. Instead, his body faced a cocktail of space-related challenges. Constant exposure to radiation, the stress of microgravity, disrupted sleep cycles, and the cramped confines of a space station. These factors combined to accelerate certain aspects of his aging process. While traditional time dilation from high-speed travel remains safely in Einstein's theoretical realm, Scott's experience hints at a more earthly sort of time travel, one that happens inside our cells. One of the quirkiest findings from the NASA twins study was that Scott's telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of our chromosomes that naturally shorten as we age, actually lengthened while he was in space, in a way that seemed like a reverse aging effect, a biological nod to the possibility of time reversal. But here's the catch: once he returned to Earth, those telomere gains vanished, and in fact, he ended up with more short telomeres than before his flight. This sudden flip-flop raises both scientific questions and health concerns, pointing to a long-term risk of accelerated aging or even an increased chance of developing age-related diseases. So, next time you glance at the clock, ponder this. Could the ticking of our timepieces be subtly affected by where we are, or even by the very environment we inhabit? With every venture into space, humanity inches closer to understanding the intricate dance between time, biology, and the cosmos.
Our journey through time continues with a mysterious man simply known as Edward. In 2018, a man calling himself Edward came out claiming to be a time traveler from the year 5000. He said he'd been part of a top-secret government time travel mission in 2004, where he traveled to the year 5000. He gave an interview where he shared a photo of what he said was Los Angeles in the future, and according to him, the city will be submerged underwater due to massive flooding caused by climate change. To substantiate his claim, Edward provided a photograph which he said depicted the future state of LA In the photo, he described seeing skyscrapers and other buildings submerged in water, with only the tops visible above the waterline. He also stated that in the future, the effects of global warming will cause sea levels to rise significantly, leading to widespread flooding in coastal cities around the world, including Los Angeles, and that the inhabitants of these cities will have to adapt to new living conditions, with the remaining population living on the water's surface. Next, we have the Greek military time travelers. In 2017, an anonymous man claimed that after serving in the Greek military for 6 years, he was invited in 2013 to participate in a top-secret time travel project. According to his account, this project saw him travel to the year 3207, a journey that lasted 2 days. From his perspective, about a month after his story came out, another anonymous man from Greece also said he was a student, when in 2008 he was reportedly approached by a professor who offered him the chance to be part of a time travel experiment. He accepted and claimed to have been sent to the year 10,000. The purpose of this experiment was said to be related to gaining knowledge about a future war between humans and artificial intelligence. Again, I think they sent him way too far into the future if it's a war between humans and artificial intelligence. 10,000? That's pretty far up there. Maybe there's something wrong with the machine. And also, I mean, according to some other time travelers we've discussed already, that's a war we won't be winning. They could have just asked them, saved the whole trip. Next up, we have Athos Salome, who's now being referred to as the modern-day Nostradamus. He's made all these predictions about the future, a lot of them very similar to the type of stuff we've heard of before when it comes to end-of-the-world conspiracies, alien contact coming soon, AI reaching a new level of awareness and taking over, more deadly natural disasters, a big war, soon we'll be able to communicate with the dead through artificial intelligence technology, you know, all your standard stuff. But what I find really genuinely interesting and kind of creepy about this whole thing is that I'm honestly not even sure if this Athos Salome guy is a real person. I've seen plenty of pictures of him, and I've read news articles quoting things he's apparently said. I've seen other people in videos quoting things he said. I'm one of them. We have a whole video on this guy on the channel. Check it out after this. But I haven't seen footage of him actually moving his mouth and talking on video. I've seen like one, but it's like a narrator over top of it, and it's like low quality. It could be AI generated. And I mean, just look at him. Doesn't he look like he could be an AI generated image to you? I mean, all these news articles say he makes TikTok videos, but I can't find them. So what the hell is actually going on here? Who is Athos Salome? Is there a real person behind all these predictions, or is this some kind of artificially created thing? And if so, who created it? Next up, we have a man who claimed to have traveled through time with Barack Obama, Andrew Basiago. Basiago claimed he was part of Project Pegasus, a secret US government initiative that he says took place during the 60s and 70s. This project focused on developing technology for teleportation and time travel. He said he was chosen as a participant when he was just a young tyke because of his father's connection to the project. The technologies he mentioned included the chronovisor and teleporters. A chronovisor is said to be a device that allows users to view events from the past and future, while teleporters are said to enable physical travel across time and space instantaneously. But he didn't just go forwards in time, no, he traveled back to 1863, where he witnessed the Gettysburg Address delivered by President Abe Lincoln himself. Basiago was very public with his claims. At one point, he even ran for president, with part of his platform promising to reveal the secrets of time travel and teleportation technology. I mean, how did he not win the presidency? Doesn't everyone want to know all of these secrets? It was a cheap tactic, but I guess in the end, it didn't work anyway. Finally, we have the one and only John Titor. This is probably the most well-known time-traveling claim in the history of the internet. Now, of course, the whole thing is very far-fetched, but what is interesting about these posts are how detailed they are. Whoever this John Titor really is or was, quite the imagination. Or he's a real time traveler, obviously. So it all began in November of 2000 when someone started posting on online forums claiming to be an American military time traveler from the year 2036. They later start using the name John Titor in future posts, and according to Titor, he was sent back to 1975 originally to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer in order to read older programming languages in the future. He claims this machine was needed to debug legacy computer programs that existed in his time. And on his way back to 2036, Titor claimed he made a stopover in the year 2000 for personal reasons, and during this time is when he decided to interact with people on internet message boards. He gave detailed explanations about how his time machine and how time travel worked in general. He included diagrams and descriptions of its operation based on theoretical physics concepts. Till this day, it's still a complete mystery as to who this guy was. Was it just some dude having some fun? Was it a social experiment of some kind? We'll probably never know. What I do know though is that his whole story was a bit more interesting than just like, oh, aliens invade in the future. Going back from an old IBM computer? I don't know. Creative.
What if the sound of crashing waves carried echoes of centuries past? Down in the quaint coastal town of Broadhaven, Wales, local residents and visitors have reported moments where time itself seems to rewind. One well-documented account tells of a family enjoying a sunny beach day, only to be startled when the laughter of children and the clatter of horse-drawn carriage sounds seemingly out of place filled the air. For a few breathless minutes, the modern seaside transformed into a scene reminiscent of the 19th century. Old-fashioned attire, vintage beach umbrellas, and even a glimpse of a forgotten seaside fair emerged as if summoned by the tides. Though no definitive evidence proves a temporal shift, the repetitive detail and specificity of these tales have earned the spot a reputation among time slip enthusiasts. It remains a beloved piece of local lore, inviting curious visitors to watch the horizon and wonder if, just for a moment, history might be unfolding right before their eyes. Picture an unidentified man claiming he's a time traveler from the year 3036 recently found himself in hot water with the law after being arrested for stealing. Authorities were immediately baffled. He had no birth record, no social security number, and no official identification on file. When asked about his actions, he explained that in his time, clothing and food are freely available in marketplaces, so taking them without paying is completely normal. His assertion that this behavior is standard in his future society not only added a surreal twist to the encounter, but also sparked a mixture of intrigue and amusement among those who heard the story. Whether he is truly from 3036 or merely spinning an elaborate tale remains a bit of a mystery, leaving everyone to wonder just how much of our current reality might one day be influenced by bizarre future customs. In the mid-1970s, an 8-year-old scout from a quiet suburban neighborhood just south of Stockholm experienced a baffling episode of missing time. On an ordinary October evening, after returning from a scout meeting by foot, he followed his well-known route home until, near a familiar roundabout, everything suddenly slowed down. A deep subwoofer-like hum filled the air, and the world around him seemed to freeze in a tunnel vision moment lasting only 15 or 20 seconds. When his senses returned, he discovered that a sudden rain had drenched his clothes and sneakers, an unexpected change from the clear sky he remembered moments before. Hurrying home, he was met by his frantic parents, who insisted that he had been missing for over an hour. They explained that while they had searched the neighborhood and even contacted other parents, he had simply vanished without a trace. In later conversations, his father recalled retracing the boy's usual path in disbelief, and his mother, with a mix of humor and lingering concern, even suggested that he might have been abducted by aliens. To this day, as an adult reflecting on that lost hour, he remains mystified by the inexplicable event, with no clear memory of seeing anything other than the eerie quiet of frozen time. In the summer of 2011, a peculiar incident unfolded for a family en route to a campsite that left them baffled for years. While a 19-year-old, his sister, their father, and stepmother drove along, enjoying the journey and switching radio stations, everything seemed normal until they passed through a tunnel. Emerging on the other side, a phone call from their nan shattered their routine. She sounded relieved, asking where they were, though her and their uncle had already reached the campsite hours earlier. The conversation was utterly baffling. The father, confused by the Nan's query of "where have you been?" soon discovered that, according to the radio's clock, 4 hours had inexplicably vanished in what felt like mere seconds. In stunned silence, the family grappled with the surreal loss of time. Their phones confirmed that hours had indeed passed. Later discussions yielded wild theories. The father speculated that they might have slipped through a time vortex or have been abducted, while the stepmother, a general practitioner, suggested that they may have simply misjudged the passage of time or experienced a shared moment of amnesia or another delusion. Ultimately, despite occasional mentions among the family, the mystery of that 30-second lapse in time remains unsolved.
In our number 10 spot, we have the Green People. Apparently in the 12th century, a guy and girl were found in Woolpit, England. They were alone and didn't speak English or any recognizable language for that matter. But that wasn't the strange part. Their skin was green, yes. Is this what that 90s song was based off of? I'm blue, if I were green I would die. Because coincidentally one of them did die. Dun dun dun. They were discovered by a villager, and pretty soon after the guy passed away. The girl eventually learned English and was able to speak about where she came from. She said she came from a twilight-covered place called St. Martin's Land, and that one day she and her brother were taking care of their father's sheep when they found a cave. They went into the cave, and after walking for a long time, they suddenly found themselves in Woolpit. That's pretty wild. And you know, I bet you they did slip through time from another dimension or maybe even another world because, well, humans aren't green, so that definitely screams aliens to me. Anyone thinking what I'm thinking? This is how the reptilian race started. Got it, got it. In our number 9 spot, we have Marie Antoinette. I can't say her name without trying to pronounce it the French way. Allegedly, in 1901, 2 professors time traveled. These professors were from St. Hugh's College in Oxford, England, and they were on a trip to visit Versailles. Versailles was once home to the famous ruler Marie Antoinette, who is known for telling all her poor subjects to just eat cake. Let them eat cake, she said. Anyways, the professors Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain were walking around the palace when the most unusual thing happened. They were suddenly inches away from Marie Antoinette. Dumbfounded as Marie was beheaded in the 1700s, it's pretty safe to say they did not expect to see Marie and all the other people who were in 1700s clothing who just appeared out of nowhere. Apparently they all disappeared when a tour guide approached the professors. The 2 women were highly respected and no one believes that they would make up a story like that. So I guess we must conclude that they were telling the truth. Pretty cool. In our number 8 spot, we have the Old Hotel. It was the year 1979, and 4 friends by the names of Jeff, Pauline, Len, and Cynthia were traveling through France when they got tired and decided to stay in a hotel for the night. They found a hotel that was ridiculously cheap in comparison to the rest of the hotels on the street, so it was a no-brainer. The only thing is, the hotel was particularly odd. Not enough for them to go somewhere else, but still it had wooden latches on the doors, no locks, and the windows didn't have glass, they were just thick shutters. What? In the morning, when they were eating breakfast, they noticed that there were armed police officers in old-looking uniforms. So old they had capes. Without thinking too much into it, they later left and went on with their day. When they were on their return journey, they wanted to stay at the hotel again, except the hotel wasn't there. After doing some research, they discovered later on that those uniforms that the police officers were wearing were actually from 1905. Whoa. So they definitely time traveled without even realizing it. I want to experience this. If I could have this experience though, I would probably want to be transported to the 70s though, you know, disco, peace, hippies. What more do you need? In our number 7 spot, we have John Titor. Obs, I couldn't make a time traveler list without the famous John Titor. John Titor is probably one of the most talked about time travelers around the world, famously known for popping into our time in November of 2000 and chatting up a time travel forum. He claimed to be from the year 2036, and he said that he was on a mission to retrieve an IBM computer from 1975, but wanted to pop into the year 2000 for, personal reasons. And he said that since he was here, he wanted to warn everyone about the crappy future that was up ahead. How nice of him. A quick World War III in 2015 and a full-blown civil war by 2012 in the US. Well, perhaps he was, 5 years or so off, but some people say that because he revealed info that it actually changed the future and therefore the timeline, would be off. Apparently he was so detailed that it was hard not to believe him, but anyways, super interesting to ponder over. Do you think John Titor was real? Let me know in the comment section below. In our number 6 spot, we have Back to the Past. Apparently in 1969, 2 men were driving on a southwestern Louisiana highway when they saw an old car in the distance. The car began to get closer to them and they saw that it looked like it was slowing down and perhaps the driver needed a boost. The men pulled up beside the car and looked in to see a woman and her child looking at them in 1940s attire and looking quite scared and shocked as they looked back at them. They gestured to her to pull over so they could help her, and so they both did. When they got out of the car though and looked back at the woman, the car had vanished. Okay, did they travel to the past or did the woman travel to the future? I don't know. Is this what Back to the Future was based on? I think yes.
We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the war. Another time traveler believes that in 2022 a war will break out between the US and North Korea. They said it would start on March 22nd, which thankfully it did not happen. So hopefully they were just full of crap and making all this stuff up. But I will say, this prediction conveniently released when North Korea was caught test firing a number of missiles. And then Kim Jong-un told military officials to be ready to mobilize troops. So help me, if there's a World War III, I'm done. I can't handle it. But like I said, this prediction was false as we are now in April. So hopefully it just never comes true. In our 4th spot, we have the sea levels rising. Global warming is a very serious issue. At this point, scientists have predicted that in a couple of years, major cities will be underwater. Well, a time traveler who goes by the name Edward claims that he got sent to the future. So according to Edward, he was part of a top secret experiment that took place in 2004. During the test, he was successfully transported in time. He was taken to LA 5,000 years in the future. And it's not looking too good. He said, and I quote, "I was standing on a huge wooden platform, and after I realized it was the same city, Los Angeles, but underwater." This man's claims were actually backed up with evidence, as he took a photo of LA underwater. Good thing he packed his underwater camera with him. I don't know. But the image is pretty blurry, but it appears to be an aerial view of LA underwater. At least we won't be around in 5,000 years. In our 3rd spot today, we have more aliens. So another self-proclaimed time traveler who goes by the name Noah also had a prediction about aliens. Noah claims that he is from the year 2030 and he got sent back in time to 2018. He then decided to share what life is like in 2030. And according to him, by 2030, the government will reveal that time travel is real and we will encounter alien beings. Honestly, all these time travelers contradict themselves, so I doubt that this is real, okay? Again, unless these aliens are friendly. Like, if they're chill, then that's cool by me. In our 2nd spot, we have the massive sea creature. By now, you should realize just how massive and mysterious the ocean is. I mean, we've done a million videos on the ocean, but still, only 5% of the ocean has been discovered. In fact, scientists predict that there are anywhere from a few 100,000 to more than 10 million undiscovered sea creatures. But by September 17th, 2022, we could discover
one of these creatures. This time traveler claims that on that date, the largest creature to date will be found in the ocean, the Kieran Cronan, which is a large sea creature in Scottish Gaelic folklore. This beast is so large that it once ate 7 whales in one go. It is over 4 times the size of a blue whale. And not only that, it can disguise itself as a smaller fish to fool fishermen. So they're like, oh yeah, look at the fish I caught, and then all of a sudden, this beast emerges and swallows the fisherman right up. So maybe everyone should avoid fishing in any large bodies of water on September 17th. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the human chimpanzee. For those of you that haven't heard, a number of scientists have been doing experiments on chimps to try and make a human-chimp hybrid, aka the humanzee. And maybe scientists have succeeded. On September 26 of 2021, a time traveler revealed that a chimp gained the power to talk as scientists successfully managed to mutate its vocal cords. The scariest part is that it said that the chimp had some mysterious things to say. But again, this time has come and gone, and I haven't heard anything about a talking chimp. So either it has happened and the government is just hiding it, or it's false news. But I will say, it won't surprise me if this prediction does come true in the future.
The Alexander romance is a collection of tales and legends about Alexander the Great that have been told and retold many, many times. There are tons of versions of these stories dating back to the Middle Ages. The stories are kind of a mix of history with myth, creating this very dramatic version of Alexander's life. There's one tale accompanied by illustrations that people often look at and go, wait, is that what I think it is? That looks like a submarine. In the story, Alexander journeys to the edge of the world, where he encounters strange and fantastical creatures like a giant crab. He ends up acquiring a vessel to travel underwater to collect pearls. Again, there are many versions, but in one, he asks for a mighty barrel of white glass, beautiful as no one had ever seen before, which he uses to travel under the water. The illustrations from the time look almost like something you could expect to see in a science fiction story, rather than a medieval piece of mythology. So it's certainly interesting, but did Alexander, as great as he was, ever actually set foot in an ancient submarine and dive underwater? Probably not. This is one of the more embellished or straight up fictional stories, but could it have been inspired by something people at the time had seen that they just didn't fully understand?
The ancient Indian text Ramayana described the gods getting around in flying chariots known as Rathans, but of course, flying gods are really nothing new, so let's talk about another aspect of the ancient text, the Pushpaka Vimana, an aerial vehicle described as a large, superb aerial chariot that could fly at great speeds and carry a large number of passengers inside of it. Starting to sound familiar? There are a number of references to flying machines throughout the Ramayana epic that outline one, their aerial agility. Vimanas are said to be capable of riding into the sky vertically, horizontally, and diagonally, which signifies precision propulsion control, and in some stories they are even said to have visited space. 2, their speed, which allowed them to cover extensive areas within hours. 3, their materials. They were said to be made of metals and alloys. 4, their weaponry. Some of these flying machines were described as being armed with a variety of powerful weapons, which many people believe is an implication of military use. And 5, their energy sources, which include solar power and mercury propulsion. Mercury, which was one time strongly considered for use in rocket fuel, until safer options were discovered, that is. The similarity between the tales told in the Ramayana and aerial and aerospace engineering are pretty uncanny if you ask me. Maybe it's because the people in charge of writing the text, which dates back to between the 7th and 15th century BCE, knew what was coming in the future, and they wanted to be some of the first ones to document the inventions.
The Voynich manuscript is one of the biggest mysteries in the world of really old books. It's a handwritten piece from the early 15th century, but its language and even most of the illustrations inside make absolutely no sense, at least from what historians and archaeologists can tell. It's filled with weird symbols and drawings that no one can understand or translate. It's like the writer just invented an entirely new alphabet. On top of that, the book is full of all these weird illustrations. There are drawings of plants planets that don't exist, odd diagrams, and bizarre figures. Some of the images are so weird that they look like they're from another world. People have tried everything to figure out what this manuscript really means. Cryptographers, linguists, even computer experts have attempted to explain it, and there are some very plausible explanations, but no definitive ones. There's even a theory that the manuscript might have been a 15th century prank or piece of offbeat comedy intentionally written to confuse people. Others think it could actually be a lost language or code, but what if, just what if, the Voynich manuscript actually contains super advanced knowledge from the distant future, which was shared to the mystery author by a time traveler? That's probably the most likely explanation. I've solved it.
Homer's Iliad, which was written around the 8th century BCE, doesn't predict robots or AI in the modern sense. However, there are some intriguing elements that can be interpreted as early interpretations of artificial beings and intelligent mechanisms. One example of this is the myth of Hephaestus, the god of fire and craftsmanship who created automata, self-operating mechanical beings. Hephaestus fashioned mechanical servants out of gold, designed to assist him in his workshop. These golden beings could move and perform tasks on their own, kind of like the super creepy AI robots we see today. One servant in particular, created by Hephaestus, was Talos, a mechanical device cast in bronze designed to act and think like a human being. Talos was said to be the protector of the island of Crete, able to move around the island and attack intruders. In the end, he was defeated, but only after his opponent removed the nail from his heel that was keeping his life force inside of him. Or in other words, they hit the kill switch. Again, sound familiar?
And we're starting off our list with a traveler who has some pretty bad news for animal lovers out there. John, a self-proclaimed time traveler, claims to have actually come from the year 4000 and traveled back in time with some interesting details about the future. Apparently, in the year 4000, technology will have advanced to such an extent that artificial intelligence dominates most of the world. He describes a world where AI merges with daily human activity, leading to a new era where biological and artificial entities coexist almost seamlessly. Seems like this is going to happen way sooner than the year 4000 though. One of the more specific claims John makes is about the way corporations will evolve in the future. He states that all companies will be owned by a single mega corporation that uses AI to manage its operations. This corporation supposedly designs, builds, and controls robots that perform nearly all types of jobs, pushing humans out of the workforce. According to John, the result is a society where human labor is no longer necessary and robots handle most tasks. John also notes that these advancements in AI and robotics lead to changes in the environment and the social structure of society. He also states that pets like cats and dogs won't be a thing anymore, and that all birds were destroyed in order to prevent them from colliding with flying cars. Aren't there a lot more things we could collide with, like driving normal cars, than like up in the sky? Why don't we destroy everything in our path, already? I don't know. That's an odd one. Next up, we have a man named William Taylor who has some pretty wild things to say about the future, and interesting side note, he also passed a lie detector test, apparently. Now, I know lie detector tests aren't always foolproof, but not many people who claim to have traveled to the future have gone through any kind of test like that. So if that is true about the test, I don't know, that's kind of interesting. In 2018, a man named William Taylor claimed to have been part of a British intelligence project in which he traveled all the way to the year 8973. And he said that things were, or will be, actually pretty good in the distant future, so good in fact that he didn't even want to leave and come back to this time. Now, the only thing is that humans won't exist anymore, not the way we do currently anyway. Instead, a species of human-robot hybrids will populate the Earth, but no disease or crime will plague it, and these beings experience eternal life. Taylor also revealed some other intriguing information, like how time travel has actually been used by world governments since 1981. The technology was apparently reverse engineered from alien spacecrafts. A TikTok channel called Real TikTok Time Traveler started posting some pretty outlandish videos in 2022, mainly because this anonymous user claimed to be a time traveler. Is a channel the correct term when it comes to TikTok, by the way? Page? Like, do you say just like user? I'm very out of touch. I don't know where I am help me. But they've posted tons of videos making all kinds of claims about what the future holds, most of it pretty dark because that's what people just love gobbling up. They claim to be from the year 2236 and mostly post about events that will be playing out over the next 10 years. Some of their standouts include, in 2025, scientists discovering signs of life on 2 different planets that are proven to be more advanced than humans, and a meteor coming down to Earth in 2034 that will wipe out half of America. So look forward to that. Alaric goes by the handle Radiant Time Traveler on TikTok and has shared some pretty grave warnings about the future. He claims to be from the year 2671, and in his latest video, he lets the fine people of the internet know about some of the notable stuff that's going to go down in the remainder of 2024. Keep May 15th marked down in your calendar because an alien race is going to show up on Earth and transport 10,000 people to another planet. But aliens coming to Earth isn't going to catch our attention for long though, because May 27th marks the beginning of the next American Civil War, which will then lead to the outbreak of World War III. But don't be too worried about your hands or feet being blown off in the war, because less than a month after the fighting kicks off, a new fruit will be discovered that helps regrow lost limbs. Also in June, the very first human-chimp hybrid will be created, and June 19th also sees a new type of storm form called a mind storm, which causes people to lose their minds and go on violent rampages. As if World War III isn't enough already. Now we have a 28 days later situation on our hands. But the best part of it all, summer, it's really gonna end with a bang. When real-life dragons are discovered in the Rocky Mountains. They fly, they breathe fire, and they even speak English. Yes, specifically English. Sorry to everyone else in the world. You'll just have to watch these dragons fly around while we chat with them. Next on the list we have Darkness Time Traveler. Now, our boy Darkness has a pretty ominous bio on his TikTok channel / page / whatever you call it, reading, "Darkness is coming. The Shadow Network is almost here," from the year 2858. The Shadow Network, Jankies. I'm guessing that's not just a TV station that shows clips of shadows 24/7. In Darkness's latest video, they claim that the solar eclipse that just went down last week was actually a smokescreen for a bunch of alien beings to fly down to Earth on meteors, obscured from our view because of the eclipse. Because apparently we wouldn't be able to see meteors flying down the Earth because it's a little bit darker out. These alien beings are known by many other alien species though as the Planet Enders, or Endids. They spell it 2 different ways in the video. Gonna guess they wrote the text in haste though to make sure we all got this information in time. People from 2858 can make spelling mistakes too. Anyway, the Planet Endids have invaded a plethora of planets across the galaxy, and aside from their warmongering, violent ways, they've also brought a disease with them to Earth, the same disease that wiped out the alien beings who apparently once lived on Mars. So these invaders have been among us for about a week now at the time of this recording, awaiting the perfect time to strike. Because you guys are kind of watching this in the future, at least compared to me, why don't you let me know down in the comments what's going on.
Starting off this countdown, we have the man from 2236. So apparently there are a number of time travelers on TikTok. One of them being a person that goes by the username @RealTikTokTimeTraveler. And they have to be a real time traveler because they have real in their username. Anyways, they have a number of eerie predictions. One of them being that in September of 2022, a celebrity that is dead is going to come back to life. Sort of. Apparently this celebrity faked his death, so by September it will be revealed that he is still alive. Now this got many people thinking. They think it could be anyone from Tupac to Michael Jackson, even XXXTentacion. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if this comes true. And if it is true, who do you think it is? In our 9th spot, we have the Omega variant. By now, we all want things to go back to normal, but it seems like we might never see normal again, especially since this next time traveler claims that by April 19th of this year, there will be a new strain, Strain Omega. Now, with how fast this virus is mutating, it's not hard to believe that soon another strain will rear its ugly head. But what is scary is that they said this strain will be 5 times worse than all other strains. So much for being hopeful. Time to lock myself in a room and never come out. Moving on to number 8, we have the aliens. Now, a number of time travelers claim that soon our world will be taken over by aliens. Let's take a look at TikToker Aesthetic Time Warper, for example. He has shared a number of videos saying that he is a time traveler from the year 2714. And last year he made a prediction that on September 11th of 2022, he says, and I quote, "An alien takes 4,000 skilled workers and children to the planet Proxima b as a result of another hostile species coming here." But that did not come true. Unless it did come true and we just didn't know that people went missing. Like the aliens wiped our memory of them or something, who knows. Moving on to number 7, we have the alien civilization. So the alien predictions don't stop there. A different self-proclaimed time traveler claims that by August of 2022, an alien civilization will be discovered on Earth. Apparently there is an underground alien race living on Earth, and in 4 months they're going to make themselves known to us. In fact, August 2nd is the exact date that they shared with the world. So, on August 2nd, get ready for alien life to be exposed once and for all. My only hope is that if this is real, that the aliens are chill. I mean, if they've been living underground for all this time, like, why haven't they made their presence known earlier? I'm a little scared to find out why. Coming in at number 6, we have the volcano eruption. So what I'm learning from this video is that 2022 is going to be one hell of a year, because not only are we encountering aliens, but we will be faced with a series of volcanic eruptions. Maybe the aliens are coming to our rescue. Now, good news. One of the time travelers said a volcano eruption would occur on March 15th. And that date has passed, and no volcano has erupted. Thank gosh. But they also said that one is going to occur on June 22nd. So hopefully they'll be wrong about that one as well.
In our number 5 spot, we have Montauk time travel. According to author Preston Nichols, there is a secret time travel base in Montauk, New York. Preston wrote the book The Montauk Project in the 90s, and he claimed that in the 1980s he reclaimed some memories of working on the project. He says that they experimented on young humans and one human had psychic abilities. He also said they created a time portal to 1943. A portal that specifically opened on the USS Eldridge, the subject of the Philadelphia experiment. Apparently in World War II, the US performed a series of tests to cloak its workers with essentially an invisibility cloak of some sort. Apparently in October they succeeded, but there was a bit of a side effect. The Eldridge crew members went insane after traveling back in time for 10 minutes. Apparently the workers were brainwashed afterwards and their memories were wiped. Wow, well honestly, I maybe believe it. If the army had cell phones in the 60s, most likely the government created a time traveling device in the 80s to go back to the 40s, right? It's possible. In our number 4 spot, we have Joffer Vorin. This story is super interesting, and apparently there is no doubt that he was real, just that he might have been a little crazy. But you can decide. Allegedly in 1980, there was a man by the name of Joffer Vorin who was found in Germany. He apparently spoke little German, which of course made him difficult to understand. He claimed that he was from a place called Lexaria and spoke the languages Lexarian and Abramian. He said he was looking for his long-lost brother, but had to stop here as he was shipwrecked. He claimed that the world was made up of 5 sections: Sakaria, Aflar, Aslar, Oslar, and Euflar. Honestly, if this guy's story isn't real, I'm sad that he didn't become an author, because that's some imagination. In our number 3 spot, we have the missing car. Okay, this one either confirms that this guy time traveled, or that maybe we should be careful with who we let be doctors? One or the two. Allegedly in 1935, Dr. E.G. Moon was leaving the home of one of his patients in Kent, England, when he noticed that his car was gone. Also, the driveway was a lot rougher than he remembered. All of a sudden, he saw a man wearing several capes, a top hat, and had a large weapon with him. The man seemed to look like he was perhaps from the 19th century. He turned to go back inside the house when he looked back and he noticed that the pavement was normal again and his car was back in the place he had left it. Coming up at our number 2 spot, we have the bookshop. Apparently in 1996, a police officer and his wife were in Liverpool, England shopping. The police officer's wife went into a bookshop and he decided to go to another store to get a CD. As he began walking to the bookstore, suddenly he noticed that everything became quiet. And then, everything around him looked like it was from the 1950s. He was suddenly standing in the middle of the street and a van honked and swerved around him. He tried to walk back to the bookshop, but it wasn't there. In its place was a woman's store by the name of Cripps. He decided to go inside, but as soon as he did, he was in 1996 again. He later found out that Cripps did exist, but closed in the 50s. Cool! This one has me a believer. What about you? In our number 1 spot, of course, we have the man from Torrid. Yeah, this story is one of my faves, so I had to make it first. This is another story about a man who is from a place that doesn't seem to exist in our dimension. In 1954, there was a man who was stopped at customs in Tokyo, Japan, as he declared that he was from a country that doesn't exist. He showed his passport and stamps to prove that he was indeed from a country called Torrid, and it was located between Spain and France. They asked him if he meant Andorra. He got, angry and said, yes, the location was right, but Torrid had existed for at least 1,000 years. He had never heard of Andorra before. He was then put up in a hotel room for the night while the police investigated further. His room was being heavily guarded, and that is why it was a complete shock to find that by the next morning, he had vanished. Dun dun dun. Well, I'm a believer. What about you?
Next up, we have Harold Camping, a former Christian radio evangelist. This guy used his mind to travel to the future so often, they just kept fumbling the dates of his doomsday predictions and had to keep reassessing and, again, bumping them up. Unfortunately though, everything just kept on being okay. First he said the world was gonna end in early September of 94. It didn't, but he was adamant that 94 was gonna be the year and reassessed and realized, oh wait, it's actually end of September. Sorry, 29th, not the 6th. Then he bumped it up to October and so on. But you know what? I can't imagine being clairvoyant is very easy on the brain. It must be a bit confusing and overwhelming to the senses. Anyway, then he said Christ was going to return on May 21st of 2011, which was a good thing for him and his followers, but bad for everyone else, of course, as the pitiful non-believers were going to be suffering in eternal torment. It was a very exciting time, but sadly, May 21st passed on without any horrific suffering, on a mass scale anyway. I guess somebody's suffering every day. So Harold Camping, being the incredible clairvoyant wizard that he was, said, well, the spiritual judgment, that happened on May 21st. We've all been assessed, getting everyone's paperwork together, but get excited, folks. October, that's when the physical rapture is gonna happen. And it didn't. And apparently Camping was clairvoyant enough to know it too, because he quit working on the radio station just a few days before this apparent biblical apocalypse was set to take place. If there's two things that seem to go together like chocolate and peanut butter, it's time travel and space travel. And that's exactly why I have Heaven's Gate cult leader Marshall Applewhite on the list. This guy firmly believed the world was coming to an end and that the only way to survive was to ascend to a higher plane of existence by shedding the physical form and reaching the very creatively titled Next Level, where he and his followers would live a happy, transcendent existence in space. Most of you know how this went. Applewhite and the rest of the Heaven's Gate cult donned their uniforms, complete with armbands reading Heaven's Gate Away Team, and consumed heavy amounts of a certain substance, washing it down with vodka, before suffocating themselves with plastic bags over their head. I'm not really sure why they needed the uniforms, seeing as the whole point was they were shedding their physical forms, but who am I, right? Rudolf Steiner, this guy was the founder of a spiritual movement called anthroposophy. His teachings delved into the nature of existence, human consciousness, and the spiritual world in general. His philosophy often touched on the idea of spiritual evolution and the cyclical nature of existence. He often discussed reincarnation in his work, meaning that, according to him, people go through multiple lifetimes to learn and evolve spiritually, so it may not be time travel in a conventional sense, but it does imply a journey through time on a more spiritual level. He also spoke about the idea that humanity is on a path of development, and our collective actions and choices play a big role in shaping the future, and a major consequence of humanity not developing spiritually, again, according to him, meant that a very dark future was ahead. Next on the list is David Meade. This guy is a conspiracy theorist and author who's made a number of predictions about an impending apocalypse, mostly linking it to a planet called Nibiru, or a Planet X. Meade, who identifies as a Christian numerologist, claimed to have uncovered hidden codes within the Bible, using them to predict specific celestial events. His predictions have focused on the alignment of celestial bodies and certain numerical calculations that point to a catastrophic collision between Earth and Planet X. I remember hearing a lot about this doomsday prediction leading up to 2012. That was a big year for end of the world predictions. Once again, didn't pan out though. Next up, we have David Icke. David Icke is a British conspiracy theorist known for promoting some pretty unconventional ideas. One of his most notorious claims involves the existence of shape-shifting reptilian humanoid aliens who, according to him, secretly control the world. You've heard of this stuff before, especially if you watch this channel. Icke suggests that many prominent figures, world leaders, and celebrities for the most part, are actually reptilians in disguise. The idea that powerful figures are actually reptilian aliens manipulating humanity has become a pretty well-known conspiracy theory at this point, and some people really believe it, like wholeheartedly. Icke has also made plenty of predictions about the end of the world, and as well as other, global conspiracies. He's talked about how the global elite, working in collaboration with these supposed reptilian beings, are orchestrating events to control and manipulate the world, and of course, they don't have our best intentions in mind. I guess his publisher might have been one of these reptilians, because at a certain point, apparently he was just like, no more of this. I can't publish any of these books anymore. So now he just self-publishes. He's got like tons of books about this stuff. It's nuts. Finally, though, we have Baba Vanga. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you've probably heard of this lady before. She's made all kinds of horrific predictions about the future, some of which were pretty eerily accurate. For those of you who aren't aware, though, Baba Vanga was a Bulgarian mystic and clairvoyant born in 1911 and died in 1996. She became famous for her apparent ability to make predictions about the future, and a good number of these predictions were pretty bad. Her predictions were wide-ranging, covering global events, natural disasters. One of her biggest apocalyptic predictions was that the world would end in the 51st century, but she didn't really give a lot of explicit detail about how that would occur, so good luck to us trying to avoid it. Similar to Nostradamus, her prophecies were usually a bit on the cryptic side, open to interpretation. Alright.
Number 10. Project Pegasus and the Chrononauts. While that may sound like a sweet alt-rock band, Project Pegasus didn't have anything to do with music, but with moving through time. Seattle attorney Andrew Basiago has been making claims since 2004 that when he was younger, starting at the age of 7, he participated in the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, Project Pegasus, focusing on teleportation and time travel. He and a few others were chosen at a young age because allegedly children could adapt well to the strains of moving between past, present, and future. Along with his fellow Chrononauts, love the name, he adventured throughout time to places like the Gettysburg Address in 1863 and to Ford's Theater to witness the assassination of President Lincoln, quote, 5 or 6 times. I don't know why he was so obsessed with Lincoln. He was allegedly even captured in a photograph. He claims that he witnessed 8 different time travel technologies throughout the course of the project, and that most were based on engineering specs and sketches by Nikola Tesla. And if one person was to come up with teleportation or time travel, I think it would be Tesla himself. Pure genius, that one. Andrew even met himself a few times in the past, and surprisingly didn't cause a paradox. His claims are supported by others who say that the Defense Department has had time travel capabilities for over 40 years, but has kept it secret. Andrew Basiago also ran for president in 2016, but we all know how that turned out. Maybe he should have used time travel to change the outcome. Number 9. Vrillin Ashtar Radio Incident. On Saturday, November 26, 1977, in the southern United Kingdom, a mysterious voice interrupted a news broadcast and gave strange commands and predictions of the future. Accompanied by unsettling pulsing noises and echoes, the electronic-sounding voice claimed to be Vrillin, a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command. Aliens or future beings sent to deliver a warning message that humans must denounce and remove all of their weapons of evil in order for an age of peace and prosperity to come to fruition, the age of Aquarius. If humans do not comply and turn from their evil ways, humanity will fall. Here's a little clip.
voice of Allah, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you.
Though the message is foreboding and super creepy, this messenger from the future actually makes some good points and gives some decent advice, like have no fear, seek only to know yourselves and live in harmony with the ways of your planet Earth. Seems like they were listening to the hippies at the time, and they had the right idea. After taking control of the station, they bid farewell and said they would leave our plane of existence, leaving us with their final words, "May you be blessed by the supreme love and truth of the cosmos." Aww. Thanks, Verlin. Number 8. Guardian Angel. In 2019, a video surfaced of a shop owner in Turkey tending to some of his merchandise. Very normal, nothing to see here, until a man calmly walks up behind him and casually taps him on the shoulder as he walks by, causing the shop owner to turn around. But not a moment later, a gate from a large truck driving by swings open, nearly killing him. And if it wasn't for this mystery man's actions, the shop owner would surely be dead. The truck driver returned to apologize for what had happened, but the mysterious stranger was nowhere to be found. Some commenters believe that this man had come back from the future to save lives, perhaps not just the shopkeepers. That's the only one that we caught on camera. Others have noticed that the two men look similar, even their outfits aren't far off, implying that maybe it's the same man, or their son somehow come back from the future. Though it looks like it was filmed on a potato, so who can be sure. Number 7. Rudolph Fentz. The story of Rudolph Fentz is one that has been hotly debated amongst the time travel investigation community. In 1951, people in Times Square in New York City noticed a man suddenly appear wearing 19th century clothing. He appeared to be disoriented and confused, and after running into an intersection in a daze, he was hit by a car and fatally injured. When his body was inspected, they found strange items in his possession that appeared to have come from another time. A copper token for a beer worth 5 cents bearing the name of a saloon which was unknown even to older residents of the area, a bill for the care of a horse and the washing of a carriage made by a stable that was not listed in any address book, old banknotes, business cards with his name and address, as well as a letter sent to him postmarked in 1876. These items in his attire have led people to believe that Rudolph was a man from the past, probably from 1876, who unfortunately slipped through time to a place that he didn't or couldn't comprehend, and his confusion ultimately killed him. Tragic story, really. Number 6. Bob White. In 2003, Dave Hill, along with countless others, received an email from Bob White. Normally, a spam email would just get ignored by Dave, but this one was too strange to pass up. The email explained that he needed help from a time traveler, or any alien disguised as human, because his life had been severely tampered with, and he needed, quote, temporal reversion to correct it. He resorted to the internet to find help.
You ever come across anything like time travel?
He asked the people receiving the message for strange mechanical parts that didn't exist, like an AMD dimensional warp generator module containing the GRC79 induction motor, or an Acme 5X24 series time transducing capacitor with built-in temporal displacement. I don't even think a Time Lord could help him find these ridiculous sounding parts. But Dave Hill decided to have some fun and responded to his message saying that he could get what he needed. And he even sent an old hard drive motor to Bob, claiming that it was a warp generator, which Bob gratefully accepted, believing it was the part he needed.
It's a time machine, Napoleon. You bought it online.
You're right.
It works, Napoleon. You don't even know.
It was later revealed that Bob White was a man named Robbie Tadino, a 22-year-old from Massachusetts who admitted to sending over 100 million messages for help out into cyberspace, and truly believed, and still does believe, that he was affected by time travel and needs to make a machine to fix it. The story he describes and the machine he seems intent on building is so specific that many people are convinced he has met time travelers or aliens and is really trying to recreate their technology with human things that just don't exist yet. Let's just hope he gets it all sorted out.
First up is the 2030 Traveler. A time traveler known only as Noah claims to be from the year 2030. Now this story I'm telling you is from 2017, so just keep that in mind. He turned up on the radio show Kyle and Jackie O and told them that he traveled multiple times in the past but was stuck in the present day. I usually went from like early 1999 to like 2018 around here, but when I got stuck I was in the year 2017. He explained. So, How does he do it? I have many body implications and things all over myself, and I step in this giant dome and these things fire up, and basically a large electronic weight basically pushes you through time. It feels like you got electrocuted, he said. Now, one of the most shocking things was that he claims that us humans will be able to communicate with aliens. He said, "We've confirmed the existence of aliens, but they're not incredibly intelligent. Right now, the government has communication with them, but we don't know it. In the future, we actually are in contact with aliens that are just as smart as humans, although we have many more advancements over them," he said. Now, of course, his claims have attracted skepticism, and in response, he agreed to take a lie detector test on camera. He listed events he said will happen in the next 12 years, and then the interviewer asked if he was telling the truth, and the machine records that he is. I mean, I guess this guy is legit. Up next is the chain of events. TikTok user Eno Alarkic, who is a time traveler from 2671, has gained thousands of followers on the app by posting warnings about future events. In one video, Eno wrote, "Attention, I am a time traveler from the year 2671, and I'm here to warn you about these 5 dates to come. November 30th, 2022, the James Webb Telescope discovers a planet that is a mirrored version of Earth. January 1st, 2023, a plane flying over the Bermuda Triangle goes missing. March 3rd, 2023, a message is received all around the world that seems to have come from the ocean. May 15th, 2023, a 750 mega tsunami hits the California coast, mainly San Francisco. And June 18th, 2023, 7 people mysteriously fall from the sky, but there was nothing flying in that area." Now, how believable is this? Well, I don't really think any of this happened, but just the thoughts of these events even happening is chilling. Moving on to the alien invasion. On March 23rd, 2023, a time traveler who warned of an alien invasion claims that said extraterrestrials had arrived on Earth and abducted 8,000 Earthlings. The champion has arrived to bring 8,000 people to another planet, they said. The so-called time traveler warned of a very hostile alien species known as the Distance that are coming to take back the Earth. It's a fight we will not win. They claim that the champions were looking for the best engineers, scientists, doctors, and leaders, and these 8,000 people are what keep the human species alive from inside and outside threats. Thankfully though, they add, "I want you all to know that you are safe, and I'm trying to warn you of what's to come." Now, last year we were having all those weird UFO sightings. Could those have been related to this incident they're talking about? I don't know, maybe. Now we have the dangers of technology. A time traveler claims to have come back from the future to warn us all of an impending apocalypse, humans versus technology. They said there was one huge computer controlling everything, which is not controlled by a person, but makes all demands and decisions itself. Apparently, the computer had the power to destroy the entire planet at once. So did this person really just confirm that we live in a simulation? I think so. Now, speaking to the camera, the time traveler who had his voice and identity changed to protect himself said, "I was not born here, I was born in 3258 on December 1st in the European Empire." Now, the time traveler explained that he was drafted into the army at 18 and wore a uniform made of gold and saw everything that happened in 3260. He said there were not only robots, they were very clever and can take the decisions communicated with each other. He said the war began on September 21st, 33,000 when he was 42, and that there has never been such a war on the planet. It was fateful and tragic for all people all over the world. Now, I'm not gonna lie guys, I feel like this is plausible and makes me scared, but I won't be alive in 33,000, so I don't really have to worry. Now let's talk about the alien war. A time traveler from the year 2858 has claimed the world will end in 2038 during a war with an alien species that has apparently already invaded Earth. A mysterious social media user who claims to be a time traveler from the year 2858 has claimed to know how the world is going to end. The user claims that aliens have come to Earth to take over the planet, but the war apparently won't start until 2024. Now, guys, let me remind you that we are in 2024 right now. They said the first war will begin in early 2024 and will end in 2038, with the Earth being destroyed. Captioning the clip, they added, "Another species of aliens save us, but not the planet." The first being that everyone would dream of an alien invasion by a species called the Zells on February 28th, before the actual invasion, which was supposedly meant to take place on March 2nd. Now, people took to the comments to debate whether the alleged warnings could come true or not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Number 5. The Philadelphia Experiment and Montauk Project. I've talked about these before in a previous video, but they require another mention here as there are so many accounts of what happened that it's overwhelming. Allegedly, there was a secret military operation being performed in 1943 at the shipyard aboard the USS Eldridge. The experiment involved cloaking, not time travel, strangely enough, but when they attempted to conceal the ship with the technology they developed, the ship did indeed disappear, but that was because it was moved 10 minutes into the past, which reportedly caused some of the crew to go mad. And later, another secret military operation called the Montauk Project was tasked with creating gates for time travel, using psychic links from children who are much more attuned to these kinds of things apparently, and can open their minds more, so the witnesses claim. One of these many gates that were opened apparently led back to the USS Eldridge during the 10 minutes of time dilation, but these two experiments are linked by one person who has since shared their experience. Number 4. Al Bielek. Al Bielek was a Navy officer aboard the USS Eldridge during the Philadelphia experiment, also known as Project Rainbow, and when the time jump occurred, he wasn't sent 10 minutes into the past. He claims that he was sent forward to the year 2137. When he was rescued from the water, he was taken to a futuristic hospital where he was treated for radiation sickness they say he developed from the time jump. He described major differences in the world, the coastlines being swallowed by the oceans, worldwide government collapse followed by the rise of a system that allowed everyone to get what they need when they needed it, for free, by abolishing the concept of money. He was eventually sent back and continued to live his life, burdened by what he had learned, with few believing him, until he was later recruited by the Montauk Project as their program director for the psychics involved with creating the time tunnels, which he used to investigate as far back as 100,000 BC and as far forward as the year 6037. Of course, he maintains that the government has done everything in their power to stop him from revealing all of this, disavowing him once he went public with his stories. Do you believe his story? Let me know in the comments. Number 3. Time traveling Trump. Now, I don't like talking about this former first family very much unless it has to do with all the current investigations, but some of these coincidences are just a little too eerie, though I do believe that they are just that. This conspiracy theory came from a discovery on the Library of Congress website, where readers found books from the 1890s, one called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, and another called 1900, or The Last President. The first is about a young man named Baron Trump, who discovers portals for time travel, and at one point in the book he was actually guided by a man named Dawn. In the second book, an odd choice for president wins the election and has someone with the last name Pence in their cabinet. Even the address where New York's Trump Tower now stands was mentioned. Personally, I believe that the former president's son Barron was named after the character in the book, not the other way around, but the connections found are certainly interesting. Number 2. Mike Markham. In early 1995, 21-year-old Mike Madman Markham attempted to build a time machine on his front porch. Of course, it didn't work, but that didn't deter him, and he kept working towards his goal. He later stole the expensive parts that he needed and caused a bit of trouble doing so. Then, after he got out of jail, he went on a radio program called Coast to Coast AM to talk about the machine he was building, saying that he was nearly finished and would be testing it soon, even giving out his phone number so that anyone with knowledge on the subject could help him out. Then he disappeared off the face of the earth. No one could find him for months, after which he said he was going to travel back in time only with his cell phone, and later that same week an old story was dug up from the 1930s of a man who was found dead on a beach in California, encapsulated in some sort of metal tube with a strange device, the description of which matches that of a cell phone from the 1990s. Could that be the eventual fate of Mike? And finally, our number 1, under the sink. In 2006, a Swedish man by the name of Håkan Nordqvist was fixing a leak from a cracked pipe under his sink when he noticed something strange, a bright light that seemed to beckon him in a way. He crawled in and suddenly appeared somewhere completely different, but he wasn't alone. He claims that he met someone there, or rather, he met himself. He claimed that he ran into himself, but a future version, perhaps around 70 years old. And since he knew no one would believe him, he pulled out his cell phone and filmed the meeting. The two men do look remarkably similar, but the clincher for this whole story is when they rolled up their sleeves and revealed that they both have the exact same tattoo, in the exact same place. We all know that one of the main rules of time travel is to never interact with yourself, so we're lucky he didn't cause a paradox and rip a hole in time and space.
Catastrophic events are next. A time traveler from the year 3036 has left us some scary messages about the future. In a series of videos posted on his channel, the mysterious traveler claims the world's population in 3036 will reach record levels, with domestic animals such as cats and dogs considered exotic. Now, he also warned of something called the Big Blackout. The Big Blackout, if I'm not mistaken, happens in December 2052. Basically, everything goes dark for an upward of 5 years. The internet, the power, it all gets disconnected on account of what's called the terrors, but many speculate otherwise. Anyway, 5 years, it's turmoil, riots, you name it, it's pretty much the worst of times. It takes them upwards to 20 years to get the power back online, and even then, it's absolute chaos. Now, he also added, "You're as free as you're ever gonna get right now," he said, staring directly back into the camera. "These are considered the last days of freedom. Your kids won't even see it, so suck it up, because as simple-minded as your time period is, you got it pretty good, you just don't know it." Yeah, that is scary. I do not like that. Then we have the end of humanity. A TikToker that goes by Javier claims to be a time traveler. Javier's first video, posted in February 2021, depicts scenes throughout the city of Valencia, Spain that look relatively normal, except for one fact: the city appears to be completely void of people. In the video, which has been viewed over 7 million times, he claims to be a time traveler from the year 2027. He says that by then humanity will have gone extinct. A translation of the text within the video describes the eerie scene. Nobody in shopping malls, nobody on the streets. In a video posted soon after, he adds, "I keep trying to find human life, I'm starting to lose hope." Now, what happens to humans, he doesn't say, but 2027 isn't too far away, and we have to prevent whatever he claims will happen. On to the time travel program. A disguised woman who has introduced herself as Mia claims to have been recruited into a secret US time travel program before she finished high school. The alleged time traveler said she was offered good money to travel nearly 600 years into the future, where the world is completely different to how we know it today. Allegedly, the world faces the irreparable consequences of climate change, the rise of artificial intelligence, and aliens settling on Earth. Now, this seems realistic. Now, by the year 2600, the concept of independent nations will cease to exist, and humans will be ruled over by a world government run by AI. At the same time, humans will supposedly live in 11 megacities spread across the globe, where they will coexist with smart robots and aliens. The time traveler said, "I visited the year 2600, and it's very hard to explain to you what it was like because it's so different from the world we live in today. I saw robots, aliens, and human beings all living together in peace." And she added that, "I talked to people from this time, and they told me how the world had changed. They said that the red sky was caused by global warming, and that they all had microchips in them that made them smarter than their brains normally were. They said countries no longer existed, and that the whole world was governed by AI." Yeah, that sounds terrifying. Next up, we have Trevor the Time Traveler. Self-proclaimed Trevor the Time Traveler is from the year 2049, and he claims to know when World War III will break out. He claims to be visiting from over 2 decades into our future in search of his pal Roger, aka Kronos. But while on his so-called mission, he stopped to make videos warning people of what's to come, with claims about catastrophic events from aliens to natural disasters. However, among these warnings, Trevor claimed to know when World War III would break out and shared information to his followers. In a clip, Trevor wrote, "Here are 3 dates that something terrible is going to happen. Remember this date: February 21st, 2024, something very big will happen. May 29th, 2030, a 3rd World War will start, lasting 7 years between the North and South. And 2037, the war ends, and the second baby boom happens, growing the population too high." And last on our list is that the US is destroyed. A TikTok time traveler posted a video saying, "I'm a real time traveler from the year 2236, and I've come to a date and time to warn you about upcoming events in the next few years," they wrote. They said in 2022, scientists discover a way to bring back the megalodon shark through using its DNA, and they create a real megalodon in 2023, and surprisingly nothing goes wrong. In 2025, scientists discover signs of life on 2 different planets, and they're proven to be more advanced than humans, they predicted. A meteor will come down to Earth in 2034, 2024 and will wipe out half of America, they said. And the alleged time traveler suggests that 50% of the US would be destroyed in just 12 years. The self-confessed Time Lord made another forecast for the upcoming decade, as they predicted the Maui dolphin will become extinct. Now this isn't all. The TikToker also claimed that Disney will buy another large film studio, and one of the largest tornadoes will hit North America, causing many casualties. Now, while we don't know if the Meg is back yet, I think this is believable.
The Dresden Codex is one of the oldest and most important surviving Maya manuscripts, dating back to the 11th or 12th century. It's full of astronomical knowledge. There are all these detailed charts of the cycles of the moon, planets, mainly Venus, and it's all very precise. As most of us know, the Maya were able to predict solar and lunar eclipses with pretty incredible accuracy for the time. And one of the most impressive parts of the Dresden Codex is its Venus tables. These tables detail the cycles of Venus with such accuracy that it led to some wondering, well, how? Was it something they were able to figure out completely on their own? Or did they have some form of advanced knowledge or technology? There's always been pretty wild theories about the ancient Maya, mainly that they might have had access to information from extraterrestrials, which is something I'm sure we'd all love to believe, just a fun idea. The Codex also features more mythological elements too. Now, most experts believe that the Maya were just super smart. They carefully observed the night sky and used all these complicated mathematics, which is pretty amazing as is, but there's always that part of my brain that entertains some of the more fantastical ideas.
The Hindu epic Mahabharata, which is speculated to have been written sometime around 400 BCE, contains a story that follows a king, his daughter, and their search for her perfect suitor. The king, King Kakudmi, was a powerful leader who ruled over a prosperous and advanced mythical kingdom located under the sea. To his dismay, he could find no one he believed to be worthy of his daughter Revati's hand in marriage, and so the two set out to seek the advice of the Hindu god Brahma. When they arrived, Brahma was listening to a musical performance, so the king and his daughter waited patiently for the music to end before asking Brahma who should marry the king's daughter. The king told the god that he had searched for many princes and had seen a good many too, but none were to his liking. The god laughed and informed the king, "O king, the princes that you thought would become the groom of your daughter all died. Their sons and grandsons and their friends have all passed away." Brahma then goes on to explain how time moves differently on different planes of existence, and that the time the pair had spent waiting for the music to end, although it felt like mere minutes to them, was actually 27 Chaturyungas, one Chaturyunga being 4.32 million solar years. And according to the story, Brahma was right. When the pair returned to Earth, everything they once knew was gone, as though they had jumped forward through time unknowingly and completely by mistake. While this might sound like nothing more than a story, which to be fair it likely is, the theory of time running differently on different planes of existence actually ties in greatly with Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. If you're not familiar with Einstein's theory, it states that the same law of physics hold true in all inertial reference frames, and that the speed of light is the same for all observers, even those moving with respect to one another. Simply put, it is the idea that the speed at which time happens is liable to change, although it will always feel the same to the respective observer existing in the respective plane. Furthermore, Einstein believed that space, time, and motion all collapse into a fourth dimension in which they all act on each other, and that gravity plays a major role in the passage of time, with a surplus of gravity causing time to go slower, and an absence of gravity causing time to accelerate. The idea of alternate planes existing adjacent to or inside of our own, with their own laws of time completely separate from our own, existing some 2,500 years ago, is pretty crazy. I mean, not only does it mention relative time travel, but based on the story's similarities to Einstein's theory, it might just prove it as well.
Nostradamus, born in 1503, is best known for his book Les Prophéties, which is packed with all these mysterious predictions about the future. The book is made up of short, cryptic verses called quatrains, some of which seem eerily accurate to events that would end up unfolding long after the book was written. For example, some people think his writings predicted events like the French Revolution, the rise of Napoleon, even the September 11th attacks. Now, some of his writing is very cryptic and very open to interpretation, for sure, but there are others that do seem pretty uncanny, especially when you look back with the benefit of hindsight. And Nostradamus wasn't just some wacky guy rambling on a street corner, he was a well-read scholar. He was very smart, but some people even think he might have had special insight into the future, some sort of hidden knowledge, like that he maybe had access to time travel. Again, fun to think about. The Roanc Codex is a very odd manuscript that's been confusing scholars ever since it was first discovered in Hungary in the early 19th century. No one has been able to decipher its text or fully understand what it's trying to get across. It uses a script that doesn't match any known language, ancient or modern. It's like a code or cipher that no one has managed to crack, but there had been attempts. The illustrations in the manuscript are just as strange, showing scenes that seem to mix religious, mythological, and fantastical elements. Some of the drawings depict intricate but unfamiliar symbols, as well as scenes of what appear to be your more standard religious ceremonies. There are also images that kind of look like stuff found in other ancient cultures, almost like it's showing this world where all these different cultures were coexisting. Is the book a hoax, an actual piece of some sort of forgotten civilization, or something else entirely?
The Piri-Reis map contains what cartographers believe to be a depiction of ancient subtropical Antarctica. Here's the thing, the Piri-Reis map was created back in 1513, and Antarctica wasn't discovered until January of 1820. Furthermore, by the time the Piri-Reis map was created, Antarctica was already completely frozen. The map was created by a Turkish admiral and cartographer named Piri-Reis, and although Antarctica isn't outright labeled on the map, many modern-day cartographers believe that the landmass located at the bottom right corner of the map is representative of the continent and how it would have appeared more than 34 million years ago before becoming a frozen wasteland. So the question here is, did Piri-Reis travel back in time to witness the rainforest-like geography of Antarctica? And if so, how did he know where to look? Or perhaps more likely, did he travel forward in time to learn this all from modern-day cartographers and geologists? Unfortunately, at the moment, we only have a small fraction of the ancient relic that is the Piri-Reis map, but hopefully one day we will be able to locate the missing pieces, which might help paint a clearer picture on the subject. However, it's also possible we never find them and it remains a mystery forever.
Alright, we're going to start things off with John Titor. This individual claimed to be a time traveler from the year 2036. So in 2000, posts started showing up on various online forums by a man known as John Titor, sharing detailed accounts of his time travel experiences and predictions about the future. According to Titor, he was a soldier sent back in time to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer, which he claimed was necessary to debug various computer systems in his future. He provided technical details about the time machine he used, describing it as a stationary mass temporal displacement unit powered by two top-spin dual positive singularities. Titor also claimed that he traveled back to the year 1975 before making a pit stop in the early 2000s. Included in this series of posts were predictions about future events, including some ominous warnings about the impending collapse of society. Titor wrote that there would be a World War III and claimed that it would result in widespread chaos, with cities becoming uninhabitable and governments collapsing. You know what? I appreciate how creative this guy is. I'm actually very entertained by it. Good job on John Titor's part, even though that's most likely very much not his real name. Alright, next up we have Edgar Cayce, often referred to as the Sleeping Prophet. He was an American psychic who did most of his work in the early to mid 1900s. He was known for entering into this deep, trance-like state while giving readings on a wide range of topics like health, spirituality, Atlantis for some reason came up a lot, and of course future events. Now, he didn't explicitly discuss time travel, but he did describe his consciousness leaving his body, combining this with future prophecies, and that's basically traveling in time. Cayce's predictions often revolved around a concept he referred to as the Earth changes. According to his readings, these changes were geological and environmental shifts that would happen in the future, leading to problems. Some of his predictions included the shifting shaking of the Earth's axis, which would result in changes in climate and sea levels. He also spoke of societal and political catastrophes, saying the only way to avoid it was through spiritual awakening and moral development as a society to help mitigate the severity of these events. Alright, we're following that up with a pretty incredible man. A man who's not only traveled through time, future, and past, but has also traveled through space, making multiple trips to and from Mars. Ladies and gentlemen of Most Amazing Top 10, please give a warm and enthusiastic round of claps to none other than Andrew Basiago. Basiago claims to have been a participant in a secretive government project involved in time travel as a young boy. It was called Project Pegasus, which he says was developed by the United States government in the 60s and 70s. According to him, the project involved teleportation and time travel experiments, and he claims to have been sent to various points in the past and future. One of Basiago's most sensational claims is that he was sent back in time to witness historical events, including the Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln in 1863. He's also talked about how he traveled to the future and saw potential catastrophic events, including a vision of a devastated Washington, D.C. Basiago's accounts involve the use of a device called a chronovisor, which I love, and a teleportation technology known as teleporters. He also describes these technologies as being capable of manipulating time and space, allowing folks to travel to different eras and locations instantaneously. So if you want to learn more about these time travel events, just ask Barack Obama, because apparently he was right there with Basiago for some of these time travel trips. Let's throw a witch into the mix, shall we? Mother Shipton. One tale goes that her mother Agatha was a witch herself and summoned the devil before her to bring her a child. And that child was Ursula Southill, aka Mother Shipton, who instead of crying like most babies when she was born, made an unsettling cackling sound because she was a half and half. Dad was a devil, mom was a witch. Bit of a nasty shock for everyone when they found out. She lived in the 16th century, and her predictions, which were often in the form of rhymes, have been studied and analyzed for centuries. Her verses are filled with vivid imagery and poetic language. She prophesies technological advancements, political changes, and horrible natural disasters. She's said to have predicted the invention of cars, submarines, and even airplanes. But she also made vague predictions about the end times. The original date was 1821, which obviously didn't come true, unless we're all just living in some Matrix-style computer simulation or something. So the end of the world date keeps being reassessed and bumped forward. Don't worry though, guys. Things will all come crashing down eventually.